Namaste.
And welcome to Kathmandu and welcome to the channel Coursework.
Thanks.
Let's begin from your childhood. How was your childhood like? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Florida, but then we went immediately back to Caracas, Venezuela. But most of my childhood was in Islamabad, Pakistan. And then from there, moved to Virginia, which is where I've spent most of the rest of my childhood. And then college and grad school, and then some traveling.
So how were you like in your school days? Do you remember anything related to arts?
Yeah, in Pakistan there was a lot of crafts. We had a class called Host Nation class, and that was a class that taught us about local Pakistani crafts like paper mache, patina, and things like that. And it was pretty like authentic, the crafts that were there.
Did you learn arts in your school?
There I was introduced to it, and then when you go out like in the market, like there's crafts everywhere. But then once moving back to the United States, art was not really a curriculum that had a lot of interest. But then I decided to study it in college, and I also got my master's degree in art as well.
So how was your college days like? What did you learn there?
Undergrad was more technical skills, color theory, composition, just learning how to use the tools. And then grad school was more concept-based and research-based. And it was independent, so you could kind of do what you wanted and put your attention towards whatever interests you rather than being told what to study.
Stephanie, what was your turning point like? I mean, how did you jump into art?
Both my grandmothers were artists. They were both painters. And I think I grew up as like a shy kid, so I like to just kind of be alone, and artists spend a lot of time alone making art. So
Initial days when you were doing arts, what kind of arts did you really do? Is it similar to what you're doing now, or was it different?
I've always painted, pretty much painting and photography. I've never really done sculpture or installation works or even like collaborative works. It's really been painting pretty much, and photography. I'd say they're pretty equal, maybe painting a little bit more. I like large scale though, and photography gets a little like burdensome when it gets to be large scale. So the painting allows me to create large scale works without it being installation, because that's even bigger.
So, can you remember the days when you started painting about the Red Indians?
I had a professor in undergrad who was, or who is, a Native American, and his work, he was a photography professor, or he is a photography professor, and his work was, or encompassed him going back to his family and his tribe and taking pictures of them, and that was really influential because it just seemed so real. That always just stuck with me. He gave me a print. We made a trade of my. I was actually wearing a burqa. I took a self-portrait because he would take a lot of self-portraits with the Native American headdress, and I kind of copied him because we all kind of copy each other a little bit. Copying that, I took a burqa and took some self-portraits. I don't know when that was, maybe 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago or something like that. Traded. So I have this picture that he gave me of a Native American girl with a horse on a rope, and he has one of me with the burqa. And I think that's what influenced getting the headdress, and I made it. Like it came like with all the different parts, and I had to like put it all together.
Your graduation, you started traveling?
I've always kind of traveled, but in terms of residence, I've always sort of traveled. Last year, I went to Lisbon for a residency, and then this year I did this one twice. But my family, we grew up traveling, like living in different countries. My parents lived in Spain. My sister was born in Spain. Lived in South America, in Bogota and in Venezuela. Kind of like naturally, like traveling is just normal.
So, do you get to learn some trade? Do you get to learn about the arts that is being practiced in the country?
Like, do I get an influence or inspired by?
Yes.
As a kid, my parents would take me to museums, like, you know, for like to educate ourselves. I don't know. I kind of like to go to the markets, and I kind of like to go to the bazaars. I actually haven't been to a museum here in Kathmandu. I get more out of just like going into like normal life in the place.
So, what triggered you the first time to Nepal?
Like what inspired me? The crafts, like Tamil, like the masks. What is there not on this one? Just the color. It's a very pictorial culture.
So, did you know it beforehand coming here? You experienced
Yeah.
it when you came here?
I don't know when I found out about Tonkas. As soon as I got here, I was taken to Lok Chitrakar's studio. I knew what Tonkas were. I think I have one. I don't know much about it. I don't think it's like a special Tonka or anything. I kind of knew what to expect because Pakistan and Nepal are very similar, but Pakistan doesn't have this Tonka culture.
So, could you tell me more about the motifs that you're using? There are dragons, there are elephants, and so many things in your painting. And you're also kind of putting it together with the Red Indian themes. Can you be more specific on what triggered you to use both of them together?
Because I think both represent culture, not our sort of modern diluted one, which there isn't. But the Native American and the, you know, this, I don't know what you'd call this, crafts, I guess, and merging them together. And I say crafts because like I'm also thinking of like not just Nepal, like, you know, Pakistan or Tibet, just subcontinental Asia or even Eastern, anything that's pictorial that's of like an indigenous culture or what comes out of an indigenous society.
So, did you find any proximity in what you're doing? Or is it just the culture that you're mixing?
No, because I feel like these pictures, like this is happening now. Like people are painting this now, people are selling this in the markets now. Like people are living, to me, this is my experience. It's happening now. Whereas the Native American thing, that seems like something that's gone. And if it does exist, it exists kind of like on like a tourist level or something. So there's kind of like they're missing each other.
Does that mean culture is demolishing itself with time?
I don't think here. It doesn't seem like it here. In the West, yeah, probably.
So you have seen so many Nepalese arts here. Like you have been to Lok Chitrakar and you have been to Shashi Bikram Saha. And was there any similarity to the works that you're doing, or is it totally different? Or how do you portray it?
Well, like what we talked about before, I think that my experience of residencies is that I'm absorbing what's around me and what I'm creating is inspired by that. So right now, this is what I'm doing. I can't say that I'll be doing it forever. So yeah.
Could you tell me more about the process that you went through while you were making this particular painting in your bag?
Sure. The first time I was in Kathmandu, I bought this sweater. It's a yak wool sweater. I bought it in Tamil. And I took it back home and I had the headdress. And actually this pose is inspired by a painting that is over there. And I put this on and the sweater, and I took a picture like this, and then the bottom half, since I'm so used to taking different images and merging them together to make sort of like these narrative paintings, I thought, oh, I could do this with the body. Like I'll use this much of myself here, and then the body I had like kind of like a coloring book of Hindu gods and goddesses, and so that's where that came from. And then once I got to Kathmandu, I was taken back to Chitrakar's studio, and he had some kind of half-finished Pawa paintings that I photographed, and that's where this comes from. And then the tattoo culture, being so prevalent in Tamil.
How about the glitters?
The what?
The glitters.
Oh, I like to just kind of like finish off the edge of the colors with like a oil marker. I've done that for a long time, even if it's not this kind of stuff. That's how I kind of like finish it off, so it kind of finishes it.
The last time that you were exhibiting your artworks here, it was not for sale. Is it the same this time also?
Yeah, they can be for sale. I haven't printed a price list. They're big though. That's like why I don't, make a price. I mean, they're very big, so I don't know how many people have space to put these somewhere.
So what is the process like while you are preparing this canvas? It's a big one, and you have typed so many things there.
This is a technique to stretch the canvas for the Pawa paintings and the Tonka paintings. I only learned this here. I have never seen this before, but I really like it because it seems more like raw. I didn't know how I was going to exhibit them. It's kind of an issue because framing can either be expensive or framing just doesn't work because you have no glass or no plexi. And so this was a perfect solution to exhibit them.
So what's your first thought when you think about Nepal and art here, art scene here?
That's kind of a heavy question. I think that it's a very kind of active, proactive arts community. Everyone's kind of together and doing it. Like, it's nice. That's why I like it. Yeah, everyone seems like they're friends, and it's a community of people that.
Did you get a chance to interact with the Nepalese artists here?
Yeah, I've been to some exhibitions, and yeah, they've come to the residency, and yeah.
Is the art scene similar back in the USA?
Not for me, no, not at all. I don't live in a cosmopolitan city. I'm probably the furthest removed from an arts center.
So do you exhibit your artworks back in the USA also?
No, not really. If I do, it's through the internet. Like I might apply to something that happens digitally, or maybe like a publication or something, but actually like showing up with tangible artwork and like mounting it on the wall for an exhibition, I haven't done that maybe in a couple of years. There have been some exhibitions I've participated in that were a couple years ago, and that's in DC.
For the artist, making a living by selling the artwork is necessary. Do you agree with this thing?
No.
Or do you have a different thought?
No, I think that if you can figure out a way to make an income that isn't necessarily relative to art, then you can also make work. It doesn't have to be selling, because then maybe, I'm not necessarily saying that this would happen or this does happen, but then there does run a chance that you're creating work to sell, which then kind of takes the whole sort of spirit out of it, which is also why I think that putting artwork out into like the media it's the same thing. Like you run the risk of creating work only for the sake of putting it out in the media, and then that kind of also makes something like die.
So it's not the thing for sale.
Yeah, no.
For an artist.
I shouldn't say that, but that's not the reason. I don't know. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm not necessarily that's right or wrong.
So what's your story like when you go back to USA with these paintings? What are you going to do with it?
Nothing.
It's just going to lie somewhere in your room?
Well, I'll have to ship them, and I'll have to take them off the stretchers. I don't know. I went through a period of time where I was cutting up a lot of my paintings, not new paintings, but older paintings. Like, things have like stacked up over the years. And there was a time that I was taking that as sort of like material and then cutting those up and then making new paintings and even bigger ones. I don't know if I would do that with this, but when I was painting some, like I've kind of like messed up here and painting over it, a thought crossed my mind. I was like, oh, well, at least I know that I can like cut this out and like, sew it onto something else and make something else out of it. If this is like...
Are there any influential artists in your life?
Yeah, lots of them. I don't really want to think about them though. I think I just kind of I'm creating what I'm seeing now. I'm being inspired by what I'm seeing now.
So do you have a message for the Nepalese artists who are young, who are in this field?
I can say my observation about sort of the difference between like on a maybe academic level or an educational level. It seems here things are very disciplined. When I took the few classes at Lokchitrakar's studio, it was very disciplined. We got a piece of paper and it had lines on it, sort of like when you'd be learning the alphabet, like you have to write cursive A, B, C, over and over and over until you learn it. That's how he was teaching the class for one shape, like one small little shape that would be maybe like that shape there. You'd have to do that over and over and over and over again. The teaching system in the West, it's more like it's completely less regimented, and that's a big difference that I've noticed.
Does that make a difference in the artist, in the making?
Maybe attention to detail. Here, I think it's teaching a certain way, like this kind of Pawa Tonka way is kind of your starting point as learning art. I've never seen that before. Some of the tattoo artists that I talked to, they've gone to these Tonka classes and learned that way.
So once you learn the craft, it is over.
Sorry?
Once you learn the craft, it is over.
It creates a common denominator. Like if, oh, I went to that, I did that too. Oh, I studied that as well. I learned this way as well. Like learning a language or something.
So Stephanie, any final message to the Nepalese artist or Nepalese art fraternity here?
No, I'm just a visitor.
Would you like to call them or would you like to request them to come to see your exhibition?
I'm going to be exhibiting 3 of my paintings and then a video projection on November 28th from 12 to 5 at the Babar Mahal Hotel in the Siddhartha Art Gallery Annex, the smaller one. And you're more than welcome to come. Thank you. Namaste.